Greenslater interrupts this program for an important announcement.
Well, if it isn't my old, painfully average friend, Incredibles 2. Honestly, my original review of this movie is pretty much right on the money, aside from my unfortunate slander of the score. The score slaps, and I'm sorry I said otherwise. But for the most part, this movie pisses me off. It's genuinely one of the most disappointing animated films ever made. That might sound melodramatic, but when you consider Brad Bird's track record in the realm of animation, and you consider how we waited 14 years for a follow-up to the original movie, it's hard not to feel a little ripped off by the final product here. Because that's what Incredibles 2 is. A product. A product that lost an entire year of production because the higher-ups needed to push something out during summer 2018 after Toy Story 4 got pushed back. And it shows. This is such a first draft of a script that it's kinda comical. Almost nothing involving Bob and the kids is actually important to the overall story. It's just a collection of filler plot lines you would find in an Incredibles TV show. Most of it is decently charming and funny, but it feels like such a waste of time nonetheless. Dash's entire character is, I can't do my math homework and also I'm hyperactive and annoying and have nothing else going on. Violet is more entertaining here than in the original, but this plotline where her date gets his memory erased is so lame. Why can't they go on a date and she tries to act normal and hide her superpowers, but then she secretly uses them in some way to make the date go better? I don't know, do something like what the Tale of Zuko did. Do more interesting things with these characters. Bob was honestly really unlikable in this movie. Like, he actively resents his wife's success, and they never give him a moment where he apologizes to her or comes to terms with his disappointment at not doing hero work. They just drop this plotline entirely when we get to the final act, so they basically made him unlikable for no reason. Cool. Jack is funny, especially when they pair him with Edna, but again, none of this ever becomes plot relevant. It's just more filler in a movie absolutely coated with it. The Elastigirl plotline has great action sequences, but they lead up to one of the lamest twist villains to ever come out of either Disney or Pixar. She's so predictable and her ideology isn't well fleshed out at all, leading to such an embarrassing and unmemorable antagonist. Her brother is also kinda lame too. I feel like they didn't go far enough with his eccentric personality. If he was more like Varric, that would have been neat and memorable, but ultimately he's just a forgettable red herring. The other superheroes suck. They have no personality and their designs blow. In fact, that's another thing about this movie. I honestly hate the new character designs. They just don't look good in this animation style. Usually, Brad Bird has great, expressive character designs for his animated movies, but the NPCs in this movie just look awful. Even old characters like Bob just look too wrinkled and super weird. Like, tone the detail back, guys. Good lord. Another aspect of the visual design they really needed to tone down was the 50s aesthetic. Like, it's cool, it looks amazing, but it clashes so hard with the aesthetic of the first film that it feels off. I mean, this movie is supposed to take place immediately after the original, but you could honestly mistake the original for taking place in the modern day. I know I did as a kid. This movie, by contrast, is so aggressively 50s that it doesn't even feel like it takes place in the same universe as the first film anymore. And also, why was Void set up as someone important only to not be important? I thought for sure they were building up to her getting freed by Violet on the boat, and then the two of them team up to free everyone else. That would have made for such a great, natural dynamic, and it would be a good payoff for establishing Void as a character. But no, just give me my superhero lesbians already, Pixar. What are you waiting for? Look, overall, this is a fine enough time with good humor and great action, but it's got one of the messiest stories out of any Pixar film, and the characters just aren't the same. A ton of people got mad at me for not liking it that much when it first came out, but now, 2 years later, it's abundantly clear just how little of an impression this movie left on people. After 14 years of begging Pixar to release it, it finally came out, and now no one talks about it. And that's kinda sad.